A Reno barista's labor turns into chaos when her friend crashes her car en route to the hospital, $4,000 in damage. She says he was drunk, license suspended, risking her and her newborn. He claims rain made him swerve, permission granted. In a tense courtroom, Judge Judy digs through booze tests and frantic pleas. Was it desperation or recklessness? Evidence clashes. Truth teeters. Will justice heal the wreck? Dive into this gripping fight where trust frays and fault blurs in a stormy night's aftermath. The air inside the small apartment on the edge of Reno, Nevada, hung thick with the mingled scents of lavender candles and the sharp tang of sweat under a stormy June night. Its thunder rumbling through the desert sky like a drum roll over the sagebrush flats. Flashes of lightning piercing the darkness beyond the cracked windows, illuminating the peeling paint and the faint glow of the city's neon sprawl in the distance. The apartment, a one-bedroom unit in a weathered stucco complex off Virginia Street, buzzed with the hum of a cheap box fan rattling in the corner, its blades struggling against the oppressive heat that lingered despite the rain, the kind of sticky warmth that clung to the skin and quickened the pulse. The walls trembling faintly with each clap of thunder that rolled across the Truckee meadows. Outside, sheets of rain lashed the pavement, their steady hiss punctuated by the occasional splash of tires slicing through puddles on the street below, a restless rhythm that matched the storm brewing within. Rachel Moreno, 28, a barista with a steady hand, honed by years pouring lattes at Brewed Awakening, clutched her swollen belly, her labor pains sharp and unrelenting at 2 a.m. Each contraction a jagged wave that tightened her breath and sent her pacing the threadbare carpet, her bare feet scuffing against its faded gray fibers. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, strands sticking to her sweat-damp forehead, her steady hazel eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination, her voice a shaky whisper between gasps. "Come on, little one, not yet, not alone." Whoa. She'd been timing the pains since midnight, 10 minutes apart, then 8, now 5. Her phone clutched in one hand, its screen glowing with the number for her midwife she hadn't yet called. Her other hand gripping the edge of the sagging couch, her nails digging into the worn fabric as another contraction hit, her breath hitching in the humid air. She lived alone, her boyfriend long gone, her family in Carson City an hour away. Too far in this storm, her steady hand faltering as the reality sank in. She needed help, now. At 2:10 a.m., a knock rattled his door, sharp against the thunder. Nate Sullivan, 30, a mechanic with a gruff voice and a broad frame, her downstairs neighbor and occasional friend. His dark eyes glinting with concern under a soaked ball cap as he stepped inside, his work boots leaving wet prints on the carpet, his flannel shirt clinging to his shoulders from the rain. He'd heard her pacing through the thin ceiling, his own night restless after a late shift at Reno Auto Repair, his voice cutting through the storm's hum. "Rachel, you okay?" "Sounded bad, thought I'd check." She nodded, her steady hazel eyes meeting his, her voice tight. "It's time contractions. 5 minutes, I need the hospital. Can't drive, please." Nate hesitated, his broad frame tensing, his gruff voice softening. "Your car, I'll get you there. Let's go, grab your stuff." She handed him her keys, Toyota Corolla, parked out front, her steady hand trembling as she grabbed a bag, her voice firm. "Hurry, Nate, it's close." They stumbled into the rain at 2:15 a.m., Rachel wincing as she climbed into the passenger seat, her breath sharp, Nate sliding behind the wheel, his wet boots slipping slightly on the mat, the Corolla's engine coughing to life as he turned the key, its wipers slashing against the downpour. He drove south on Virginia Street, the storm blurring the road, headlights glinting off wet asphalt, his broad hands gripping the wheel as he swerved through traffic, his gruff voice muttering, "Hold on, we're close, Renown's 10 minutes." At 2:22 a.m., a mile from the hospital, he veered left to avoid a flooded patch, overcorrected, and slammed into a utility pole with a sickening crunch, $4,000 in damage. The Corolla's hood crumpled, airbags bursting, Rachel jolting forward, her scream swallowed by thunder, Nate cursing as rain poured through a cracked windshield. Paramedics arrived at 2:30 a.m., pulling Rachel to safety labor advancing. No injuries from the crash. Nate stumbling out, his gruff voice slurring slightly. "She said drive had to get her there." Rachel delivered a healthy girl, Mia, at 4:05 a.m., her steady hazel eyes glinting with relief and exhaustion. But the crash lingered. A police report noted Nate's blood alcohol level at 0.10, over the limit, his license suspended 6 months prior for a prior DUI, a fact Rachel hadn't known. She sued Nate a week later, $4,000 for repairs, stress filing at the Washoe County Courthouse clerk's window, her steady hands trembling as she signed, her voice sharp. "He was drunk, crashed my car, risked us both." Rachel saw recklessness, a betrayal of trust. Nate saw urgency, a desperate act to help. Their fight hit court, a storm brewing over trust and fault, Reno's rainy veil, pressing down like a judge's scrutiny, waiting to fall. At the front, behind a raised bench scarred with nicks and pen marks that traced decades of rulings and late-night deliberations over crumpled files, sat Judge Judy Schindlin, 80. Her gray hair pulled tight into a no-nonsense bun that gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, accentuating the sharp lines of her weathered face, etched by years of courtroom battles and New York winters. Her brown eyes sharp with a piercing intensity that cut through the room's stillness like a hawk spotting prey across a concrete jungle, seeing through bluster and excuses to the bone beneath. A gaze that missed nothing and shredded everything with unrelenting precision. Her robe hung crisp over a petite frame, tempered by years of disciplined broad shoulders from decades commanding courtrooms and TV studios, her voice steady with authority from years barking orders across legal chaos, hands steady from wielding gavels and pens, their knuckles faintly knotted from gripping justice, with a clarity that left no room for evasion. Her voice a firm, biting drawl honed by a lifetime on the bench, carrying a steel forged through countless televised tangles as she called the case. Her tone slicing through the cool air like a whip cracking over a silent street. Moreno versus Sullivan. Small claims. $4,000 property damage. Dispute. Let's hear it, folks, and keep it tight. I want facts, not sob stories. We're here for evidence, not excuses. I've got a docket longer than a desert highway, and this damp's not waiting for dawdling, so get to it now. Rachel sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by a stack of evidence she'd gathered herself, no lawyer. Her barista's budget too tight for legal aid medical bills. Police report, blood test results, photos of the wrecked Corolla. Her steady hazel eyes glinting with resolve. Her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. Her apron traded for a crisp white blouse under a thrift store blazer that pinched at the shoulders. Its black fabric slightly faded, but pressed with care. Her hands steady on her folder, despite the tremor of anger and exhaustion beneath her calm. A fire stoked by weeks of reliving that rainy crash, Mia's cries, and Nate's slurred excuses. Nate sat at the defendant's table alone, his mechanic's pride too thick to hire help, despite the free legal aid offered at the clerk's window when he filed his response. His savings drained by rent, and a looming fine from his prior DUI. His hands clutching a thin stack of papers, handwritten notes. A scribbled statement. His fingers calloused and stained with grease from a morning at Reno Auto Repair. His gruff voice steady as he adjusted his faded ball cap. His dark eyes hard with defiance. His broad frame tense beneath a flannel shirt rolled to the elbows. His breath even as he braced for the fight. A faint whiff of motor oil clinging to him like a second skin. Judy leaned forward, her elbows resting on the bench, her brown eyes scanning their filings. Rachel's typed complaint for $4,000, its pages crisp with dates, dollar amounts, and a detailed affidavit of the June 14th crash laid out in stark black ink. Her barista's precision evident in every line. Nate's handwritten response, its ink smudged from anxious handling, a mechanic's scrawl claiming she said drive I wasn't drunk, her pen tapping a slow, deliberate rhythm against her notepad. Each tap a signal she was sifting through their mess with a judge's unrelenting stare, her voice cutting through the gallery's hum like a siren through a quiet night. Permission's one thing, fault's another. Every time I see it in this room, a car's wreckage caught in the balance. Evidence draws the line. Prove your case. Show me facts, not stories. I want specifics, not guesses. Let's cut to it. Who drove? Who crashed? I need clarity, not chaos in this courtroom today. No tears, no tantrums, just truth. Who's first? Her drawl carried a biting authority, her gaze shifting between them like a spotlight, seeking cracks in their armor, weighing their claims with a steadiness that brooked no evasion. Her hands steady on the bench as she flipped through Rachel's complaint police report, June 14th, 2:22 a.m. Blood test, 0. 10. Repair bill, $4,000. Then Nate's response, a single page of scrawl. Her lips thinning slightly as she read the numbers, her brown eyes narrowing with a flicker of skepticism. Woman claims drunk driving, man claims permission, a baby's birth caught in the middle. I need proof, not pleas. Let's start with the plaintiff. They. The gallery buzzed. Whispers swelling, retirees like Ed Grayson, a grizzled trucker with a thermos, muttering to his wife Clara, a retired nurse with a notepad. Drunk driver, judge'll nail him. She's got him cold. Young workers like Tara Mills, a cashier with a faded apron in her bag, whispering to her friend Lena Ortiz, a barista with tired eyes. She's got proof, he's toast. Judy don't play. Nate's co-worker, Sam Carter, lanky with a grease-stained cap, nudging his pal, Luke Ramsey, a welder with a thick beard. He was helping judge'll see, she said drive. Their voices a low hum of anticipation, a chorus threading through the tension. Their bets and murmurs a backdrop to the courtroom's simmering storm. A pulse matching the cool air and the light's steady glow overhead. A rhythm that quickened as Rachel rose, her steady hazel eyes fixed on Judy, her resolve a steel thread beneath her calm. Rachel's jaw tightened, her fingers clenching her folder until the edges creased, her breath steadying as she stood, her sneakers silent on the linoleum. Nate's hands steadied, his dark eyes flickering with defiance, his broad frame shifting slightly as he watched Judy's words, a gauntlet thrown. Their clash now, a courtroom battlefield under her piercing and unrelenting stare. Reno's rainy veil, a faint shimmer beyond the tall windows, its neon lights dulled by morning. The city's desert sprawl, a quiet witness to their unraveling trust. Rachel testified first, climbing the stand with a steady step that echoed softly off the linoleum floor, her white blouse crisp under her thrift store blazer, its black fabric slightly faded, but pressed with the care of a woman who knew every detail could tip the scales. Her voice calm, but edged with a quiet fury that simmered beneath her barista's poise. A fire stoked by weeks of reliving that rainy crash, and Mia's fragile cries as she swore, her hand firm on the Bible, its leather creased and soft from years of oaths, a weight grounding her resolve. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. She sat, hands resting on the rail, fingers tracing its worn edge as she adjusted the microphone with a faint squeak, her steady, hazel eyes locking on Judy, with a resolve tempered by years, pouring coffee and raising a child alone. Her dark ponytail swaying slightly as she leaned in, her breath steadying against the cool air. Her voice threading through the stillness. He drove drunk, June 14th, 2:22 a.m. Crashed my Toyota Corolla into a pole, $4,000 damage. I was in labor. He said he'd get me to Renown Hospital. Swerved through rain, hit the pole, blood test shows, 0.1. Over the limit. He didn't tell me his license was suspended. I trusted him, he wrecked it. She slid her evidence across the stand police report, blood test results, repair bill, photos of the crumpled Corolla, her voice steady, carrying across the room with a weight that filled the silence. A barista's precision beneath her calm. 2:15 a.m., June 14th. Gave him my keys, labor, 5 minutes apart, said, drive me please. 2:22 a.m., Virginia Street, swerved left, hit the pole, airbags out, photos show it, police came. 2:30 a.m. Report says, driver impaired, blood test, 0. 10 repair bill, $4,000. He was drunk, I didn't know. Judy leaned forward, her brown eyes sharp and unrelenting, her pen poised over her notepad. its nib glinting faintly under the fluorescent lights as she tapped it once. A signal she was digging into the marrow of Rachel's words, her voice cutting dry through the cool air like a blade through fog. Permission, prove it. When, where, what did you say? Exact words. Not just your say, so I need his consent. Clear? Rachel's hands steadied, her voice firm, her steady hazel eyes glinting with a fire that burned beneath her calm as she slid papers forward, her fingers steady despite the tremor of anger. 2:15 a.m., June 14th. My apartment living room, labor 5 minutes apart. I said, Nate, drive me to Renown, please. I can't, he said. Okay, I'll get you there. Took my keys. We ran out. No talk of drinking or license. I trusted him, he didn't say no. Crash details, when, how bad, what's it cost, show me the wreck. Not just the bill. 2:22 a.m. Virginia Street, mile 5. Southbound, swerved left, hit a pole. Hood crumpled, airbags out. $4,000 bill here, photos. June 14th, 2:35 a.m. Police took him front end smashed, repair shop said $4,000. June 16, she said, her voice rising slightly, a tremor of fury breaking through her calm as she handed over the bill and photos, her steady hazel eyes glinting with a flicker of pain beneath the resolve, her hands trembling faintly as she pointed to the crumpled hood. Drunk, prove it, blood test. When, how'd you know? Show me proof, not guess. Police tested 2:45 a.m. hospital ER blood test. 10 over limit. .08 report says. Driver impaired. Smelled it on him after crash, breath reeked. Didn't know till then, she said, her voice firm, her hands unclenching slightly, her steady hazel eyes meeting Judy's sharp scrutiny. Her resolve a steel thread beneath her calm. Judy scribbled, her voice dry as the Reno dust outside, her drawl measured but piercing. Tests, steel permissions clear. His turn, I need his side facts, don't lie, people stretch, go on. Nate countered, climbing the stand with a heavy step that thudded against the linoleum. His flannel shirt rolled to the elbows over broad forearms that flexed with tension. His gruff voice steady but edged with defiance as he swore, his hand heavy on the Bible, its weight grounding his resolve. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. He sat, hands gripping the rail, fingers digging into the wood as he adjusted the microphone, his dark eyes locking on Judy with defiance and a flicker of desperation that simmered beneath his broad frame, tense beneath the flannel, his breath steady as he leaned in. She said drive. I had permission, hospital emergency. Rain was bad, I wasn't drunk. Swerved to miss a puddle, hit the pole. Her fault for not checking my license. She said drive. I drove, that's it. He slid his thin papers across the stand, handwritten notes on a napkin. A statement from Sam Carter, his voice firm, cutting through the cool air like a wrench on steel. 2:15 a.m., June 14th. Her place, she said. Nate, drive me to Renown, please. I said okay. Took her keys. 2:22 a.m. Virginia Street, rain heavy, swerved left. Missed a puddle, hit the pole. Sam saw me at the hospital, said he was fine. No drunk, just rain. She didn't ask about my license, I didn't lie. Judy. Permission, exact words, when? Where proof she said it, not just your say-so. 2:15 a.m., June 14th. Her living room couch, she said. Nate, drive me to Renown, please. I can't. Pacing, grabbing her belly. I said, okay, I'll get you there. Took her keys. No talk of drinking, she didn't ask. I didn't say, he said. His hands steady. His dark eyes meeting Judy's sharp gaze, his voice rising slightly. Drunk, prove you weren't, blood test, says 0.1 explain that, show me facts, not words. Tests wrong, 2:45 a.m. Hospital. I had 2 beers, 11 p.m. Not drunk, felt fine. Rain was bad, swerved to miss a puddle, not booze. Sam saw me walk straight, he said, his voice wavering, his hands clenching the napkin, his dark eyes glinting with a flicker of doubt beneath the defiance. Crash, why swerve? What did you see? Prove rain, not rum, show me, 'cause not excuse. 2:22 a.m. Virginia Street puddle. Deep left lane, swerved to miss it, rain. Heavy, couldn't see good, hit the pole. No rum, just Rain Road was slick, he said, his voice firm, his hands unclenching slightly, his dark eyes pleading beneath the strain. Judy scribbled, her voice sharp, her brown eyes narrowing. Tests steel, you're fine. Ben's rain or rum, I need more witnesses, next facts talk. Excuses flop. Witnesses fueled the tension, their voices threading through the heat like sparks in a dry wind, each adding fuel to the blaze. Rachel's neighbor, Lena Ortiz, a nurse with a steady gaze and a tight bun, testified. Climbing the stand with a calm step, her voice steady, her brown eyes clear. June 14th, 2:25 a.m. Saw him stumble out her apartment, reeked of beer, slurring, she's fine, rain heavy, but he wobbled. I saw the crash, 2:30 a.m. Pole hit hard from my window. Judy. Exact time, what did you see, smell, prove it, not guess. 2:25 a.m. Porch light on, he stumbled downstairs. Beer smell, strong slurred, she's fine. 2:30 a.m. Crash loud, pole bent, rain pouring. Saw it clear, Lena said, her voice calm. Her hands steady, her brown eyes meeting Judy's sharp gaze. Her words a steady thread cutting through the hum. Nate's co-worker, Sam Carter, lanky with a faded cap and a grease-stained shirt, countered. His boots scuffing as he climbed, his voice gruff but firm. June 14, 3 a.m. Hospital parking lot, saw him after crash. Walked straight, talked. Fine, said. Rain was bad. No stumble, no smell, just wet from rain. He was good. Judy. Time where? What did he say? Prove sober, not slurry. Show me his step. 3 a.m. 3. Hospital lot by ER door, he said. Rain was bad, swerved. Walked straight to me, talked. Clear, no. Wobble, no beer. Smell, just wet rain. Heavy. He was fine. Sam said. His voice steady. His hands shifting his cap, tilting slightly as he met Judy's scrutiny. His words a steady counterpoint. Evidence clashed. Rachel's police report, June 14th, 2:22 a.m. Crash into pole, driver impaired, BA 0.9. Blood test 2:45 a.m. 0.10 over Nevada 0. Weight limit. Repair bill $4,000. Photos of the crumpled Corolla hood smashed against the pole. Nate's napkin note. She said, drive rain, bad, no drunk. And Sam's statement, 3 a.m. hospital, he was fine. Judy probed, voice sharp, her brown eyes blazing. Drunk's drunk, poemhen's fact, not fiction, license or not rain or not prove. It didn't sway that wheel, show me science, not stories? Nate. Tests off, 2 beers. 11 p.m. Rain made me swerve, not booze, I was fine. Judy. Science don't lie, your fine flops next. A week of heat testimony piled like logs on a fire. Voices rose like thunder rolling over the desert. Papers shuffled into stacks, their edges curling in the cool air. Their ink smudged from anxious hands. The courtroom, a crucible simmering with sweat and strain. Its air thick with the weight of words and the hum of the gallery's murmurs, swelling like a storm breaking over the sagebrush flats. Judy recessed daily, retreating to her chambers. A stark nook with a scratched desk cluttered with files and a half-read novel, its pages yellowed from years on the shelf. A window framing Reno's skyline damp through a streaked pane. The city's neon lights dulled by morning mist. Her coffee cooling untouched beside a stack of Nevada statutes and a worn legal pad, its pages scribbled with notes, times, levels. Her boots tapping a steady rhythm against the linoleum as she paced. Her mind sifting through the tangle with a judge's piercing precision, weighing every word, every glance, every scrap of evidence against the emotional current swirling beneath like the Truckee's hidden depths, its flow steady but unseen, its silt muddying the truth. She returned on Monday, July 17th, her robe rustling as she climbed the bench, her voice firm, cutting through the room's hum like a blade through silence. Her brown eyes sweeping the gallery, then settling on the tables with a weight that pinned them like stones under a desert sun. Her presence, an unrelenting anchor in the storm. Her drawl sharp. Permission granted drinking caused it $4,000 to Moreno, June 14, 2:22 a.m. Crash blood test 0.10 proves drunk, not license faults his. She leaned forward, Her pen tapping once, her voice rising, her brown eyes blazing like a storm over the Sierras. Her words a thunderclap that silenced the room. "Evidence don't lie, Mr. Sullivan." "You do," she said. "Drive me to Renown, 2:15 a.m., June 14th, permissions clear." You took her keys, drove her Corolla, 2:22 a.m. Swerved, crashed pole, $4,000 damage. Blood test, 2:45 a.m. 0.10 over limit 0.8. Police saw it, smelled it, photos. Show it, wrecked, rains, wet rums, wrecking, you claim, 2 beers. 11 p.m. test, says drunk, 4 hours later. You're fine, flops. Science says, booze swayed that wheel. Not rain, not license, you drank, you drove, you crashed. She pays nothing, you pay $4,000 due 30 days. Rachel exhaled, her steady, hazel eyes softening, a flicker of relief washing over her. Her hands unclenching on her folder, a weight lifted through the echo of that crash lingered. Mia's birth, a bittersweet shadow. Nate slumped, his dark eyes dim, his broad frame sagging, his hands clenching his napkin until it tore. Fault clear, trust murky, a truth he couldn't shrug off, a burden now etched in his bones. The gallery buzzed, Ed muttering, "She's got him, drunk's drunk." Clara nodding, "Fair's fair, he pays." Tara whispering, "Told you test wins." Lena grinning, "She's fierce." Sam shaking his head, he was helping Rain. Luke, silent. Judy's gavel fell, a crisp thud, wood meeting wood, echoing like a door slamming shut, silencing the storm. $4,000 due, 30 days, no appeal, change facts. Mr. Sullivan, pay it. Learn it, drinking's not a defense, next case. Outside, Reno shimmered under a dusk streaked with silver and indigo. The air cooling as the sun sank behind the Sierras, its faint light glinting off the Truckee's gentle ripples. Rachel drove off in a borrowed Civic, her Corolla still in the shop, its repairs now funded, her steady, hazel eyes glinting with relief and a quiet hope. Her hands steady on the wheel as she headed home to her apartment on Virginia Street. Mia's soft coos a melody in the back seat, a future clearer but still tender. Her mind drifting to the quiet evening ahead, a cup of tea, Mia's tiny hand in hers, a pause earned after the storm. Nate lingered by his truck in the courthouse lot, its rusted frame dulled by dusk. His dark eyes hard, his broad frame slumped against the door, his hands gripping his cap, tension unspent. A storm brewing beneath his silence, his gruff voice muttering to the wind. "I was helping tests wrong." A shadow of doubt he couldn't shake, a fault he couldn't shrug off, a burden now etched in his stride as he climbed in and drove north, his taillights fading into the rain-washed glow. A mechanic's pride dented like Rachel's car, a question trailing behind him. Judy drove home to her condo on the city's edge, its sleek lines golden under the fading sun, now swallowed by dusk, the Sierra peaks a silhouette against the sky, their edges blurring into shadow, sagebrush whispering in the breeze. Her Lexus rumbling over asphalt, its tires humming a steady tune as she pondered, would trust mend between a mother and a friend bound by a desperate drive? Would fault's edge soften, or drift further into the dusk like a lesson unlearned, a bond unhealed? The horizon stretched, Nevada's desert whispering under a sky deepening to indigo, the Truckee glinting faintly, a mirror to her thoughts. What heals a desperate drive broken by drink? What waits in the rain-washed glow for a woman with proof and a man with pride? What lessons linger in the damp air for a crash that birthed a child but shattered trust? A question hung, open and vast, shimmering in Reno's quiet night. A truth unresolved. A story trailing into the dusk, its next chapter waiting beyond the courtroom, beyond the rain, beyond the glow that settled over the city, like a promise yet to unfold, a whisper of what might be in the silence after the storm. Thank you all for watching this video. Please comment and let me know what you think about this story. Please like and subscribe to watch more great content on my channel.